Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. We'd like to welcome you to the English Gospel at Becerra de Meneses. As you know, we are a non-profit organization, 501c3. We function strictly through volunteers and donation, and our mission is to study Spiritism and promote the practice of spiritual as well as material charity. For those interested, our phone number is 305-477-4148. The email is info@spiritus.com, and we're also on www.spiritus.com. It's not on. It might not be on. That works when it's on. It works better. Okay, as you know, we're on YouTube. So all the lectures can be broadcasted live for you on www.youtube.com/Becerra Miami, one word. All right. For our preparation, we would like to read from our daily bread, which was written by our dear Francisco Candido Xavier, by the Spirit of Light of our dear brother Emmanuel. Today it's chapter 113, Your Faith. Make sure your cell phones are off, okay? Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." And this is our divine master Jesus speaking in the book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 48. We're going to see now what our beloved Emmanuel tells us regarding this phrase. It is important to observe that the divine messenger, after having dispensed beneficial assistance, always made a reference to the marvel of faith, which is a sublime patrimony to those who seek him. On diverse occasions, we heard his expressive affirmation, "Your faith has healed you." The sick in body and in soul, after their improvement or through their cure, would hear that noble phrase. It is that the will and the confidence of men are powerful factors in the development and illumination of life. The navigator without a course and without faith will only be able to reach a port by virtue of the movement of forces in which he balances, however, absolutely ignoring what could occur to him. The patient who is incredulous of the action of the remedies is the first to work against his own security. The man that appears to be disenchanted with everything will not respond with any useful cooperation in anything. The souls that are empty and vain claim the happiness that they feel the world owes them. The denials through which they wander in life, they transform into deadening zones as isolators of electricity. Vitalizing current goes through, however, they appear insensitive. In the enterprises and necessities on your path, do not isolate yourself in negative positions. Jesus can overcome all. Your true friends will do anything possible for you. In spite of this, neither the master nor your companions will be able to provide you in an integral sense that happiness that you seek without the assistance of your faith, because you are also a child of the same God with the identical possibilities of elevation. So for reflection about today's reading. In today's reading, Emmanuel reminds us we should always work with goodwill and faith, believing in that all we do will be for good. And when we have challenges, we should believe we will be able to overcome them. With the help of Jesus and with our faith, we'll be able to do it. Amen. It's beautiful. Something to think about, because actions without faith, they don't work. I think that's what they're trying to tell us. If you don't have faith, doesn't help you at all. So now we're going to invite you to do our morning prayer. All right? Oh, one more. I'm sorry. Am I putting all my faith and trust in myself to reach the goals I have proposed for myself in this new year? Am I conscious that my goals are in reach of my capability and favorable to my spiritual development? Now we could do our prayer. I'm sorry. I'm so anxious to. Okay. Let's take a deep breath, elevate our hearts and our souls in a moment of meditation as we give thanks for this wonderful day. Let us raise our thoughts in the name of our divine Master and Teacher, Jesus Christ, and thank the spiritual mentors of our center, all the spiritual guides that accompany us in all our day-to-day workings and coming and going. Above all, let us thank God for this wonderful doctrine, for our divine Master and Teacher, Jesus Christ, that taught us the true meaning of love. We also ask a special prayer today, this morning, for our speaker, that she may be inspired to say the things that are going to help us. We also pray for the courage that we need to apply these wonderful teachings to our everyday lives so we can leave here better than when we arrived. All of these things we ask in Jesus' name. So be it. Today's a special day. On Valentine's Day, we have a special guest, not a guest, a worker of the center, Carla. The reason why I say it's special is because when you really want to, you can make time for everything in your busy schedule. This young lady goes to college. She works full-time. She's a mother of two and 2 baby puppies. But that's her babies anyway. And, and she still finds time to work in the center in our communications department. And furthermore, she made the time to bless us with her words. So we thank you very much, Carla.
Well, good morning. As always, it's a pleasure, but a nerve-wracking pleasure to be here. I've covered this chapter before, but as a very good friend of mine, of our center, has said, if you look at your last presentation and you have nothing to change, then you're really not applying what we've learned and what we study and what we read and so forth. So hold on one second. Technical difficulties. All right, so coincidentally, ironically, whichever adjective we want to use, this is probably the smallest chapter in our gospel. It is about 5 pages long. And yet, if we look at the the titles, my personal opinion is that is probably one of the most important, I guess we could say. I think after maybe the collection of the Gospels, the prayers, I would say this would probably be one of the um, important ones. They're all important, of course, but if you were to put them in a list, why? Because it talks about our faith. It talks about the power of faith, the religious faith, the unshakable faith, the parable of the fig tree, and in the Spirit's teachings, which is my personal favorite sections of each chapter, is the faith, the mother of hope and love, and the human and divine faith. Now, despite being the smallest chapter, let's get into it so you can see why it's so important. The power of faith. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and said to him, "Why could we not drive the demon out?" Jesus answered, "It was because you do not have enough faith. I assure you that if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. You could do anything." This is in Matthew chapter 17, verses 19 through 20. So this particular verse, it's the second half of the verse. Basically, there was a member of their community that brought a father that brought his son to Jesus, to the disciples, because he was possessed by, an evil spirit, a demon. And the disciples tried to expel the demon out and the bad spirit out, and they couldn't do it. The child possessed by the demon just laughed at the disciples. And then Jesus came and he just said, be gone away with you, you demon. And the evil spirit left the child's body. And because of this, the disciples were incredible. How is it that we have the same faith? We've been studying and following you in your footsteps, and we weren't able to drive the demon out. And Jesus simply said, you have not enough faith. It's not that you don't have faith, you don't have enough. Because when we stop and think about it, we can say we have faith, but there's that itty bitty little doubt. That's enough to dismantle everything that we have. Everything, like all the work that you've done, all the efforts, all the energy, everything. That one little seed of doubt will shatter everything that you can possibly work toward, or that we have been working towards. Confidence in our own abilities renders us capable of accomplishing physical things that we would not be able to do if we doubted ourselves. Here it is only in the moral sense that these words should be understood. The mountains that faith moves are difficulties, resistance, and ill will. Robust faith provides the perseverance, strength, and resources that enable us to overcome the obstacles in little as well as in big matters. Now, at the same time that when Jesus said, you have very little faith, if you had enough faith as big as a mustard seed, you could do anything. And at the same time, that same size of that mustard seed is enough to shake our own confidence. Now, I looked up to see how big a mustard seed is, and it makes you wonder, it makes you think. Even back then, 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago, the reference that Jesus made to the size of the mustard seed. So if we're all wondering, that's the size of a mustard seed. So all we need is that amount of faith in ourselves. And at the same time, all it takes is that amount of doubt for it to just be done away with everything that we can possibly try to accomplish or are in the process of trying to accomplish. Faith means the confidence one has in accomplishing something, the certainty of achieving a particular purpose. It provides a kind of lucidity that enables one to see in thought, to see in through the end, which is intended, the means to reach it. I'm sorry, that enables one to see in thought the end, which is intended, and the means to reach it. We all have our plans. We all have our goals with everything, with school, with work, with a vacation, with anything that we do, a project. We always imagine how it's going to be. We always, or at least how we would like it to be. Sometimes it's not how we want it to be, and we don't have the capability of seeing that. Sometimes we think we know what's best for us, but in reality, we all know. We've always had, I believe each and every one of us have all had our own particular experience when it comes to that God shows us that sometimes it's not what we want. It's what he has planned for us. So faith enables the accomplishment of great things. Sincere and true faith is always calm. It provides the patience that knows how to wait, because having its point of support in the mind and in the understanding of things, it carries the certainty of arriving at its objectives. Hesitant faith senses its own weaknesses. When it is stimulated by interest, it becomes incensed and thinks it can supply the strength it lacks by means of force. It's been posed. Everything, like, you can always tell the difference. We can always tell, and sometimes it's hard when it's ourselves, when we're the ones, it's always easier to point the finger, and it's always easier to say, oh, that person is not doing this or not doing that, or because it's out of own self-interest. But at the same time, have you stopped and thought about your own actions, your own desires, your own, working towards, is it really a selfless that you're doing? It's as you're really helping that person because you want to, and you're not getting anything back in return. It's the same thing. I always heard my uncle say, donating clothes or things that you're not using is the easiest form of charity. And I could never understand that. I could never, ever understand that. And then when I came here, I found out when I started donating things, even before I started coming to the center, even before knowing Spiritism, to donate at the little trucks. And the first time I went there, the lady, very nice lady, is like, do you want a receipt? And I'm like, what for? Mm-hmm. And then consequently, when I went to my, we were talking at my job and everything, and I mentioned, because that was odd. I found it odd. And the lady was asking me if I wanted a receipt. And my coworkers, you asked for a receipt, right? Especially in blank, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like, how could you? I'm like, what is that for? It's like, because you can get tax deductible. And I'm like, then that's not charity. Then that's not donation. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads, not even 2, 3. So it goes for you to think, it's like the little things. It's like, and that's one of the things that's what I understand. And it goes back to what my uncle would say, oh, that's the easiest form of charity. And I'm like, why? Because I spent money on that shirt or that furniture, or whatever the case may be. And he told me, he's like, the easiest is because you're not using it anymore. You're not, he's like, it doesn't make a difference. It's one thing for you to donate something that you need, but somebody needs it more, as opposed to you donating something that you don't need. It goes without saying that, it's the same thing as like donating your time. You may not have the money to donate, but donating your time sometimes is a lot more expensive, quote unquote, than donating money. So calmness in the midst of struggle is always a sign of strength and confidence. Force, on the other hand, is proof of weakness and self-doubt. Always keep in mind, after I read this chapter for the millionth time, every time there's always something. And one of the things that I always remember, and I encourage all of you to remember, is the size of that mustard seed. That's all it takes. And that's a close-up, by the way. That's a very, very, like, that's a close-up, like magnified, I don't know how many % of that seed so that we can know exactly how big it is. True faith allies itself with humility. Those who have it put their trust in God more than in themselves, because they know that they are simple instruments of God's will and can do nothing without God. That's why good spirits come to their aid. Have you ever heard or have you ever seen somebody that, despite all the bad, anything that's going on, they say, I have faith in God, He will bring me through it. And you have other people who say, you're crazy, you have to do something. You can't put all of your energy and your thoughts, you just pray because that's not going to do anything. And that is a difference between those two people of honest and true faith, as it says in the gospel, and that itty bitty little tiny mustard seed of doubt. The power of faith receives a direct and special application in magnetic action. Through faith, humans act upon the fluid, the universal agent, modifying its qualities and giving it an impulse that is irresistible. All of this is in the chapter. Word for word, I'm quoting it exactly from the chapter. At the same time, I always encourage everybody to look and to read it, because this is my interpretation of it, so to speak. It's my focus points on certain what spoke to me when I was preparing this gospel. At the same time that like I said, we can read the same thing over and over and over, and every single time we will get something. So at the same time that you're reading this with me in this presentation, when you go home and read it, you will get other points, because it will apply to each and every one of our lives, each and every one of our journeys and our obstacles and what we need to go through to progress in this lifetime. Religious faith, the state of unshakable faith. From the religious point of view, faith is the belief in the particular dogmas that comprise the different religions. All religions have their articles of faith. From this aspect, faith may be either rational or blind. Blind faith examines nothing, accepts both the false as well as the true without verification, and clashes at every step with evidence and reason. Wherever faith rests upon error, it collapses sooner or later. Faith that is based on the truth is the only kind assured of the future, because it has nothing to fear from the progress of enlightenment, since whatever is true in obscurity is also true in full light. Every religion claims to be an exclusive possession of the truth. However, to profess blind faith on a point of belief is to confess, one's inability to demonstrate that one is right. Now, I remember that last time I came across this paragraph, I did a comparison of my own personal past experience with other religions, specifically the largest, I would say, or the most common two, which is Christianity and Catholicism. But like I said in the beginning, if you don't have anything to change from your prior, then you're not really applying your gospel. So this time around, I started thinking about specifically that was my own personal journey, and each and every one of us go through what we need to go through, and we receive the help and the information, I guess you could say, and how we apply it is up to us. So yes, one religion can be considered blind faith. One religion can be considered irrational, or that it's because I said so, and that's why you have to believe like this. But at the same time, I thought back to where I was in my point, in the point in life at that time when I came across one religion and when I came across another. And one of the things that I was always, I think I was always like this, but at the same time, it was kind of taught, is always to ask why. So even though I came across these two, so in my case, these two particular religions, for other people, we will be others, and sometimes it will not be called religions, you will be called something else, or whatever the case may be. You can't take away that own particular experience from somebody else. There's a reason why we each go through the obstacles we go through. Some of them are chosen, sometimes by us, before we even reincarnate in this life. Some of us, or most of us, should all know that. And some of them is so that we can see and put into practice what we learned, and it is exactly as a challenge so that we can progress, so we can become better spirits, so we can become better people. And the fact that in today's society, my religion is better than yours, you're wrong, I'm right, contradicts everything each and one of their own religion stands for. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure most of us have seen the movie Nosula, Astral City. And the very first time I saw it, I had read the book before. And when I saw the movie, I have a tendency of paying attention to little details, the background and so forth. Because I had an arts teacher in one of the schools of one of these different religions that have always taught us, like there was a particular project to pay attention to the background. So I don't know if anybody else has noticed that when Andre Luis goes to talk to the minister, the one in charge of everybody, that they go, it's in that room, it's in a room like that looks like it's full of windows. On the bottom of every single window, there is the symbol for every single known religion. There's the Om sign, there's the Islamic sign, there's a cross for Christianity, there's the for Catholics, there's every single religion. And then I went back to the book to see if it was something that it was the director that put, because sometimes they'll add things to it. And it wasn't, it was there. And mind you, I read the book a couple of different times and that never popped up to me. It popped up when I saw the movie. So who is to say that my religion is better than yours? It's the same thing as saying my opinion is better than yours. I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. Keep that in mind, especially towards the end, because when you will understand why I'm bringing this up when we get to the end of this presentation. Faith cannot be prescribed, from which many people declare that it is not their fault if they do not have faith. Of course, faith cannot be prescribed. And what is even more correct is that faith cannot be imposed. At the same time that we say, yes, I have faith, or no, I don't have faith, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in Christ, it is their right to do it. Because at this point in time in their life, they need to go through that journey. We also have to remember, it's the same thing. If, aside from all the mother or parents and kids being forced to eat certain things that they don't want to eat, let's take that out of the equation right now. But other than that, we can't impose anything on anybody else, because how would you feel? Put yourself in their shoes. If the shoe's on the other foot, as we say in English, how would you like it if you're forced to do something? It's the same thing. No, you're not. Spiritism? Are you crazy? You believe in voodoo? You believe in crazy people? You're like acting like a crazy person. You're wrong. It's the same thing. It's simple as just turning from the other perspective. It cannot be prescribed but only acquired, and no one will be refused to possess it. even amongst those who are more resistant. Each and every one of us will come to our own conclusion, to our own acceptance, to our own belief. Sometimes it's not in this life. If we've read the book Heaven and Hell, the at the, not towards the end of the book, but there's the, how do you say, the communications with the spirits that have already passed. They, like, there have some that are extremely faithful and then some that there were not. And it's just another, let's, for lack of a better word, notch in their belt in their progress. Hopefully everything that we do need to learn, we learn in this lifetime. Is that possible? Yes, it is. All of it? Probably not. But the more and the majority of what we do learn is the best for us, not for anybody else, not for your mother, not for your father, not for your brother, sister, aunt, uncle, your friends, your best friends, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It's for yourself. Everything that we do is for ourselves. And everything that we do wrong, even without even knowing it, still, we're hurting ourselves. We are speaking about fundamental spiritual truths and not this or that particular belief. It is not faith that should seek out these individuals. Rather, they should seek out faith, and if they sincerely search for it, they will find it. It's one of those things, you can't force somebody to come to the center. You can't force somebody to go to church for mass. They have to go willing. They have to go on their own way. If they don't go, go for them and pray for them. Faith requires a foundation. Such a foundation is the perfect understanding of that which is to be believed. In order to believe, it is not enough simply to see. It is essential above all to understand. Blind faith is no longer appropriate for this century. And it is precisely the dogma of blind faith that produces the greatest number of disbelievers nowadays, because it wishes to impose itself and requires the abdication of two of the most precious prerogatives of human beings, reason and free will. Now, remember, this is part of the Spirit's teaching, and this was written in the 1800s. So for them to say blind faith is no longer appropriate for this century, can you imagine now in the 21st century? It is mainly against this type of faith that disbelievers rebel, and about which it is true to say that faith cannot be prescribed. But by not accepting proof, it leaves a void in the mind that gives room to doubt. Rational faith, that which is based on facts and logic, leaves no darkness in its wake. One believes because one is sure, and no one can be sure unless they have been understood. Missing a word there. That is why rational faith does not collapse, for unshakable faith is the kind that can stand face to face with reason in all human epochs. One of the things that on my own personal journey that I had always an issue with in the past with other religions was that 3-letter word, why. Nobody could, they tried, but they couldn't, not for trying, they couldn't explain it to me. And that does not make sense. Yes, I believe in God. Yes, I believe in Jesus. Yes, I believe it. But this particular thing right there, it does not make sense. There has to be something that I'm missing here, or that we don't know about, or that it has not been shed a light on. And I remember when the first few times that I read the gospel and had discussions with, a couple of people here at the center, one person in particular, that whenever I have any doubts or whenever, I'll go to him and I'll be like, hey, what about this chapter? What about this particular section? And I'm like, why does it say that? Where does that come from? And he's like, did you read it? I'm like, yes. Do you have any questions about it? I'm like, no. then why are you at? I'm like, because I've always been told. And he's like, your brain is conditioned that you've always been told what to do and why it's one way or another. If you look in the gospel, whatever it may be, you have all the answers right there. It's not because so-and-so said it or because it's right there. It's rational. You have a rational explanation of it. You don't need to take my word for it or my interpretation, just like you don't need to take anybody who does the gospel's presentation on Sundays. It's their own personal viewpoints, what speaks to them, and you have to take into consideration what's going on at their time, what's going on the week before or 2 weeks before when they were preparing that gospel. You're going to go home and read that same chapter, and you're going to have a totally different viewpoint. That's what Spiritism is. It's irrational. It doesn't take away our rationality or a free will. Faith, the mother of hope and charity. Hope and charity are a consequence of faith. These three virtues form an inseparable trinity. Is it not faith that provides the hope of seeing the Lord's promises fulfilled? Because if you do not have faith, what do you hope for? If you do not have faith, is it not faith that provides love? Because if you do not have faith, what appreciation will you have, and consequently, what love? I think that's something for all of us to think about, right? And I'm sure there's plenty of reasons. I'm not going to say mine because it's my own, but that's something for you guys to take home and think about. Faith, divine inspiration from God, awakens all the noble instincts that lead humans toward the good. It is the foundation of regeneration. Sincere faith is alluring and contagious. It communicates itself to those who did not have it or even would not desire to have it. It finds persuasive words that go to the soul, whereas apparent faith uses only sonorous words that leave their listeners cold and indifferent. Preach through the example of your faith in order to give it to others. Preach through the example of your deeds in order to enable others to see the merit of faith. It's very, very hard. Say, practice, do as I say, not as I do, or practice what you preach. It's very, very hard. Very, very hard. If you think about the reading from Emmanuel, I thought it was very fitting right before this chapter to read it the day of the presentation of this chapter. At the same time, the opening prayer, I think that's one of the things that we should all, or at least I always do on my nightly prayers and morning prayers, help me apply what I'm learning or what I read to my everyday life. And I can tell you from experience, especially lately, it is not easy, especially in a work scenario. So we all have it. So for those of us that think we're the only ones having trouble, we're the only ones having issues, whether it be with friends, family, coworkers, classmates, you're not. Each and every one of us have it. But remember, this is an obstacle, maybe chosen by me, in order for me to make it through the hurdle and succeed. So a very wise person once told me, granted it was a marriage advice at the time that I was married, said, when you're angry at your spouse, instead of screaming at him, go into the bathroom and scream your head off and then walk out with a smile on your face. So I've taken those very wise words from an 84-year-old woman and I apply that to my everyday life, especially at work and sometimes at home too. Have faith in all that it contains of beauty and goodness, in its purity and its reasoning. Do not accept faith that cannot be substantiated. The blind daughter of blindness. Love God, but know why you do it. Believe in his promises, but know why you believe in them. Follow our counsels, but be aware of the objective we show you and the means we provide for you to reach it. Believe and hope without losing heart. Miracles are the deeds of faith. And that's from Joseph, A Protector Spirit, Bordeaux in 1862. Granted, all these were written in 1800s. Have you ever had somebody tell you or ask you, all right, do you have faith? Do you believe in God? And then follow up with, why? Can you answer that? Can each and every one of us answer that? I got taken by surprise one time. Like, Carla, are you religious? I'm like, yes, I am. Do you believe in God? Yes, I do. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Yes, I do. Why? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't answer. I couldn't put in words. So that's another way for you or for each and every one of us to see where along we are on our own personal journeys. If you can't express, it doesn't have to be an elaborate explanation or like a speech. It can be a simple answer. Just like the first question in the Spirit's book. What is God? Supreme being, first cause of all things. Just a simple phrase, simple sentence. Divine faith and human faith. Faith is the innate sentiment in human beings of their future destiny. Until now, faith is either human or divine, depending on whether people apply their faculties to their earthly needs or to their heavenly and future aspirations. Magnetism is one of the greatest proofs of faith put into action. It is through faith that magnetism heals and produces the remarkable phenomena that formerly were regarded as miracles. I will repeat, faith is both human and divine. If all incarnates were fully persuaded of the power they have within them, and if they wanted to put their will in the service of that power, they would be capable of accomplishing what until today have been called prodigies, and which are actually nothing more than a development of human faculties. A Protector Spirit in Paris, 1863. Kind of powerful words, right? I decided to end this chapter with a video. Oh, there is a quote that I would like to share with you that I think applies to this chapter, but to an everyday. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. I'm going to end the chapter with a video from Pope Francis. He has a monthly, I believe, speech, I guess, or discussion on certain topics. And the one for last month was about prayer, but he also touched on the different religions. And I thought it was very interesting. It's very short. It's about a minute and a half.
La mayor parte de los habitantes del planeta se declaran creyentes. Esto debería provocar un diálogo entre las religiones. No debemos dejar de orar por él y colaborar con quienes piensan distinto.
Confío en Buda.
Creo en Dios.
Creo en Jesucristo.
Creo en Dios, Alá.
Muchos piensan distinto, sienten distinto, buscan a Dios o encuentran a Dios de diversa manera. En esta multitud, en este abanico de religiones, hay una sola certeza que tenemos para todos. Todos somos hijos de Dios.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Confío en vos para difundir mi petición de este mes, que el diálogo sincero entre hombres y mujeres de diversas religiones conlleve frutos de paz y justicia. Confío en tu oración.
A minute and 30 seconds, but extremely powerful words. So I don't think I can top that so I'm gonna leave you with that video in mind and the last words from our protector spirits. And with that, have a wonderful week. Heavenly Father, thank you.
Invitiamo i presenti a sedersi ai propri posti, grazie.
Thank you for everything that you have done for us. Thank you for your love, your unconditional love, your unconditional faith in us, that we are capable of doing better with every day. Thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, for his love. Thank you for all our protecting angels and spirits. Please watch over us each and every day, that our brothers and sisters, both here and afar, incarnated and disincarnated, are able to find in their own personal journey their own particular faith and in your love. Be with us each and every day. So be it.